Welcome everyone to the debut of my Path to Perfection series. And in this series, as I explained a little bit in my Foot 21 channel trailer, we will be looking at some of my toughest matches in FIFA Ultimate Team, and who knows, maybe we'll develop and do some other things within this series as well. And my goal with this series is to look back at my gameplay, keep ironing out mistakes that I consistently make within my gameplay, and go through the key moments in the game and see where we went wrong, what we could and should have done, and stuff like that. So within that process, hopefully you guys enjoy it and also learn a bit about the game as well. So let me know how this goes for you and if you have any suggestions for the series. Now, getting into this specific game though, it was one of those classic games that we've all had where you have more chances than your opponent, but you still end up losing to your opponent nonetheless. So let's look at what we could have done better in the key moments of this match. Now, this is a good example of why a 3v3 scenario isn't really as standard. Both of my options that aren't on the ball, that is my Mertens and my Insigne on both flanks, aren't really in positions to make runs because they're either not accessible or they're going to be blocked by a defender. So my thought process here was to sort of dribble into the space with Dembele and see if I can drag out 3 of his players. That's kind of what happens, and we set up a spot where 3 of his defenders are all clumped up in a very awkward position. We have created space. Sure, no one's in there yet, but we are creating the foundation for something to be abused. And so this movement of going up and down and trying to look for the gaps creates this situation where you can see I have a clear pass with Insigne into my Mertens in a huge space in the middle, and the man my opponent is selecting is expecting yet another switch of going up and down. Unfortunately, that's kind of how the game works, and in this situation, he's way too passive, and it's the reason we end up having a chance that, of course, we should have scored. Absolutely, we should have scored, but the point here is that to show you guys a good way to confuse the opponent. He's used to you doing a certain movements, and then all of a sudden, he is so focused in you going up and down that he completely forgets what's in the box, and that's one way to create a chance in this game. Now, in this situation, the moment I actually messed up and put myself in a really difficult position is this one. Now, as I said earlier, I play a 4-3-2-1, so these moments are extremely key. I'm selecting, as you can see, my right center mid in Insigne, and that's a huge mistake. I should be selecting my number 4, Radja Nainggolan, because the threat is the opponent striker covered in the rectangle. And the reason that I concede this chance is for this situation right here. This is exactly where I messed up. When you have 3 CMs and no CDMs, these situations are hugely important to deal with, and without second man press as well, this is where it all fell apart. It then leads to this situation right here where I made a mistake and I dragged up Koulibaly diagonally as opposed to using Koulibaly to put pressure on the ball holder. I should have recognized that the triggered run he made was diagonal, and this way he baited me into clumping up my center backs together, meaning they would both end up chasing the runner, and the ball holder would be free to do whatever he wanted, and I gave him a ton of space. Eventually, he's able to dribble, and now I have to deal with him so much closer to the box where I actually have to jockey, and although I do an alright job about it, as you can see here, there's just a little bit too much space between us, and it's not really a healthy spot for me because he can get the finesse shot. Sure, he doesn't score, but overall, if you're playing someone who's got an Mbappe or a Neymar, this is all it really takes to concede. All he needs is half a yard of space on the edge of the box, and it's GG. Now, this is a very important situation because I end up rushing a pass and forcing a pass that, although looks good on paper because Insigne is moving in this very nice area, it is completely blocked and there's no way it's going to work because his defender is in the way. Now, the reason I rush it is because I felt like I was under pressure over here, but really I need to pay attention to the indicator sometimes, and that's something that you guys might want to focus as well. The indicator is on this player here, and the key is that he's focusing on my opponent's run, so he's going to go there, which means my only threat is this man, and without second man press, I don't really even have to worry about him, which means I could do a ball roll, or I could just slowly dribble in this direction and wait until the very last second. But the key here is that in moments like these, you need to realize who has the second man indicator, because that could be the difference between doing a rushed pass or forcing yourself to play until the very last possible moment. And that would have been very helpful in this situation. Now, guys, crossing is a massive problem in this game in the sense that it's hard to mark, it's super overpowered, and already I'm in trouble in this situation, right? Theoretically, I should be able to, select my center back over here and press second man press so that my Koulibaly can then go in there and worry about the crosser while I mark these guys. But you can't do that, so here I have to make a decision, and I kind of am forced to let go of Koulibaly right here. Just forget about him, and at that point I'm giving Rashford the in to go. But the key here is for me to be selecting Manolas and running this way. He's the man that I'm supposed to confide in to not only mark everyone here 1 and 2, but I need him to also run here and meet the runner who's eventually going to be there. And I don't do that. And not only that, I actually just keep running with Koulibaly, which is worse because you already know what happens. The runner goes there, the runner goes there. He has 2 free crossing options. And as you can see from the clip, he actually ends up not scoring, but it would have been super dangerous. And this is a reflex that we all have to develop in this crossing game. We need to get used to select the center back and run into the box to deal with this situation. Eventually, though, we do work it around and we do get in an interesting position with Hazard. Now, this is where FIFA 21 knowledge comes in. So every game is a story of its own. And here, what I was trying to do is I was trying to kind of just like cut back around, maybe a Berba spin, or force even a tighter cut this way. And that was a mistake. What I should have realized is that I'm ever so slightly ahead of this defender right here. I'm ahead of him ever so slightly. What's a good fake shot in this game? The 45-degree running face shot. I think I should have put all my marbles into this, and at that point I would have been able to kind of cut inside and end up in this position. At that point I can either shoot, and that'd be really easy, or I can pass and then he runs in, scores. I love drawing on this thing, and that's what I kind of have to gamble on. That fake shot, the 45-degree running fake shot in this game is so damn good that I have to gamble it here, and I have to try and get into this area because I am ever so slightly ahead of him, and I might just phase through him. It's just the way the game is. If you want to be efficient, that's what you got to go for. Off the same play, by the way, because oftentimes when you concede or miss a chance, you allow your opponent to score one. And in this situation, you can see he gets once again in this awkward situation where I'm forced against his defenders. He ends up going wide, which usually is a decent thing. But here, this is where essentially I concede. I make the mistake of switching into Malcuit, and I vividly remember I failed. I absolutely failed to switch back into my Manolas. This is the man I'm supposed to be selecting at this point because there is no second man press to force him to, move in this way and close him out, which would allow me the freedom to go this way with my Malcuit and put pressure on 2 ends. I can't do that. So at this point, I have to switch into Manolas, and I have to be aggressive, and I have to push into him. What I actually end up doing is I just keep chasing him from behind, and that's really not a good thing because even though, this guy is blocked by supposedly this guy, things move on, right? You see Nainggolan is also tracking right here, but the problem with Nainggolan, as you'll see, is he tracks back to the point where he becomes parallel with the goalkeeper and he stands here, which just makes no sense, right? Artificial intelligence should allow him to make him stop here, but that just doesn't happen in FIFA. So you either need to select your defender right here. You need to select this guy and be aggressive, or stop him right about here so you can cover the passing options. You got to choose one, and I did neither, and that's essentially why I conceded in this opportunity. Massive opportunity here. This is something that happens quite a lot in FIFA 21. There are very small windows of opportunities. More often than not, runs that you can feed like this one happen quite fast, especially if you don't have like the Mbappes or the Neymars who buy you more time. This has to be a first time pass that I play this way. Now I can do a first time triangle and just gamble, or I could do a first time lofted through ball. But the point is, if I want to feed that run, it has to happen first time, because if I don't, by the time I feed it, Dembele is going to be over here and he's already offside. And that's precisely what happens in this play. I ended up being up way too late, and it's such a shame because obviously the chip is so good. Such an easy finish at that point, and we blew an easy 1-1. This opportunity is a perfect example of how millimeters make champions. Now, it's really tough here to sort of move around the box because, as you can see here, we've got how many? 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 6 of his players in such a crowded space. It looks like he has a very narrow depth. I mean, the distance between his two fullbacks cannot be more than 10 meters, which is insane. And even though we do well to work it into our Mertens right here, there's still something that we need to do to, close it out. There's always something that you need to improve on. And here my mistake is that I went for the far post finish, something that I'm a bit too addicted to because it makes more sense in my brain. But also I have to realize, look, he's got a defender here. He's going to block it for sure, rightly so. I need to make the conscious effort of finishing powerful near shot. It's as simple as that sometimes. Sometimes you just need to have the presence of mind to see which lanes are open, which are not, and just aim the right side. Even if you do everything correctly until the last second, if you shoot into the defender, it is what it is. Another example of having the presence of mind, this might be just me not being used to FIFA 21, but looking back, obviously it's always easier to say in hindsight. The obvious pass here, I don't think I need to really stress too much about it. It's a pass into Mertens right here, and that's an easy tap in. Now what I try to do is I fail to realize just how much space is between me and the defender. I have so much time. I can slow down and really assess the situation. But what do I instantly do as soon as I get into a good amount of space? What do? I instantly driven past because I am quote unquote panicking, right? And I'm just going for the first thing I see. Had I waited, boom, easy pass, easy finish. And that's a good tip for really anyone. Understand the position you're in. Understand how much time you have. Use all that time, unless obviously you have a super clear pass to move the ball. But that's a massive point that anyone can really work on. All in all, though, we end up doing as well as we possibly can for ourselves because we end up with De Jong in this amazing situation. And this is one of those cases like earlier where it all comes down to the shot choice. Actually, I'm going to argue that even though I do shoot a finesse far post, I think that this is a good enough angle to score. I really do. But note to self, in this angle, perhaps with De Jong, just go for the power shot finish near post because at that point, even though, my opponent's center back doesn't block it, I kind of just completely remove that risk. Granted, I do still have this guy who could block the near post shot, but with De Jong, maybe just go for the safe near post shot and perhaps, it goes in. Now, this is actually a really tough one for me because I really feel like I should have scored. I think even though Mertens has a 4-star weak foot, we have pretty much set up the perfect situation to score. We've got my opponent over here who's selecting this center back, and so he's completely just ignoring these three, right? He's not really actively defending with anyone who should be defending. They could have blocked my shot, granted, but I think I did a good job at shooting far post, which was essentially my only option, unless I would have decided to ball roll this way and then obviously shoot this side. But I feel like had I done that, then this guy right here would have been able to tackle me. Obviously, this shot didn't end up working. It either I think it got saved. So if I want to be like super critical, maybe, just maybe, as you can see here, as soon as I made the shot, my Insigne is completely wide open, and perhaps I could have, waited for this peeling movement to happen, never shoot, and then once this peeled off movement happens, I could have done a pass in this way and then shoot with Insigne in a much clearer angle. I could have gone pretty much near post, far post, wherever I want with Insigne. But I think in this situation, I'm going to tap myself on the back and be like, it's all right, Chief. You can't always do everything that in your power. Sometimes the game is the game. And so after 80 minutes of me constantly creating chances and him not really doing anything, how do I lose this game? Well, this is essentially where the nail in the coffin gets placed. I'm selecting Manolas here, right? And I should not be doing that because at this point, Manolas should be kind of worried about this plethora of space. There's so much empty space here. And I should be switching into Nainggolan and then using Nainggolan to press up here. And then, whenever this man right here decides to run back, guess who's there? It's Costas. But my mistake here is that I'm Costas, and I kind of just forget about this, which means that my opponent, as you can see later, will run into space and behind, and Raja will not follow, right? Because it's just how it is. The midfielders don't track back, and I know a lot of people think, oh, that's good, it's manual defending, but I mean, it is and it isn't because we don't have second man press, but it is what it is. As you can see here then, as we proceed the play, You know, exactly what I said happens. The defender is out of position. He gets in with Rashford. I try to block it at the end, but, you know, to no avail. Eventually, I am lucky enough to get a goal, which it's funny how this one goes in out of everything we had, because we only just win the second ball. We have just so much space that even here we can't miss, and the game ends up 2-1. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is a reason why I lose a lot of games that I should. There's things, you know, that I lack. A lot of missed passes that lead to counterattacks. A lot of awareness, lack of awareness, not realizing who my opponent is selecting, where he's marking, perhaps missing the last pass, missing the correct direction of the last shot. Anyways, that's going to be it from me today. As you can see, another chance here where potentially I could have ball rolled, but essentially it comes down to the fact that it's De Jong on the end of that and not a strike. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.